notes.
You should comment, like, subscribe.
Yeah. All right.
How?
So we already filled in half the slide because we were talking about photosynthesis. The next thing we need to do is probably talk about something you're not really too familiar with, a process we call cellular respiration, or sometimes just respiration for short. Cellular respiration is another chemical reaction that happens inside of many living organisms, just about all living organisms. And so respiration is another equation that you'll need to remember. But if you know the equation for photosynthesis, the equation for respiration is pretty easy because it's almost the exact opposite. So respiration requires two things. Can you guess what one of them is? Picture? Glucose. And it requires? Oxygen. Good. So it requires glucose and oxygen. And it produces three things. Now one of these is a little different. The other two are the same as in photosynthesis. Allah, what do you think? What's that? I'm sorry, what did you say? No, not quite. Can you guess what the other two boxes are? Yes, it produces water and carbon dioxide. So this little explosion box. So it's not light. If it were light, like we would all be glowing. All of our cells would constantly be releasing light energy. But that's not true. Instead, cellular respiration takes energy that's trapped inside of a glucose molecule and transforms it into a molecule that's called ATP, adenosine triphosphate.
That's way more.
So ATP is basically what the type of energy our cells can actually use. So for example, the foods we eat all contain energy in the bonds between the different molecules. However, to actually use that energy to do work, our cells need it converted into this form called ATP. It's kind of like let's say a gallon of gasoline has energy in it. Okay. Can you pour some gasoline into your cell phone to charge it? No. Even though it has energy, you can't use that energy to charge your cell phone. Is there a way you could use that, extract that energy?
Yeah.
What would you use? You know what we use to change the energy in gasoline into electricity? A generator can do that. A generator uses some source of fuel, whether it's gasoline or natural gas, and it generates electricity. So you need to transform that energy from one form to another so that you can actually use it to charge your phone. The same sort of thing is true in a cell. Glucose has energy in it, but it's a form that needs to be transformed into this molecule called ATP for the cell to actually use. So again, in this chemical reaction, we have the reactants on the left, the products on the right. And so really the ultimate goal of cellular respiration is to produce energy in the form of ATP. Now this, we didn't talk about it, but can you guess what organelle of a cell this would happen in? Really? Why do you say that?
Because it's the respiration thing.
Yeah, it happens in the mitochondria. The mitochondria are the organelle where glucose and oxygen go in, and it's transformed into ATP and some waste products.
What does ATP stand for?
Adenosine triphosphate. It's just sort of a high energy molecule that has bonds between these phosphate atoms that can be broken to release energy.
For 45 cents a year, can you pay me to make better thumbnails for your...
All right, so let's just review these two things again. So photosynthesis and respiration. So the reactants in photosynthesis Raise your hand if you can tell me. We should all be able to give these things. I want to hear from some people I haven't heard from in a while in this classroom. Ollie, what do we need? What is a reactant?
We need light.
Stop. Yes. What else? Give me another one. We need light. Tyler?
H2O.
Water.
Carbon dioxide.
Carbon dioxide. Again, we're talking about photosynthesis now. Those things can be transformed into two other materials. Sean, give me one.
Oxygen.
Oxygen and
Glucose.
glucose.
Oh.
I showed it before you.
You.
So, the energy in photosynthesis, energy from light is transformed into chemical bond energy in the chloroplast. Okay, respiration. So, give me a reactant in respiration. Yeah, I'd like to see some new hands. Say that. Needs glucose. Elizabeth, it needs oxygen. It produces, Abby,
KTM.
what?
What were the initials again? ATP.
ATP. Also, what else? Oh, I missed it. Ella, carbon dioxide. And Lily?
Water.
Water. So respiration happens in the mitochondria. This is not quite true of every cell. Every cell doesn't have mitochondria. But for our purposes, we'll say in every cell. And it's the main source of energy for all living things. Again, that's also not quite true. Some organisms don't go through cellular respiration. So to summarize, photosynthesis requires these three things: light, water, carbon dioxide, whereas respiration requires glucose and oxygen. The end products in photosynthesis are glucose and oxygen. End products of respiration are ATP, carbon dioxide.
Do we have to know it in that order, or is it
No, the order doesn't really matter. When you're writing out these equations, you could have said it plus oxygen plus glucose.
Yeah, I for
Arrangement is
respiration, I
important.
always put H2O before CO2.
So the purpose of photosynthesis is basically to capture sunlight to make food for the plant. Whereas the purpose of respiration is to take glucose and turn that into a usable form of energy. Organelles
The quiz on Wednesday is second confidence.
and osmosis and diffusion. Happens in chloroplast. Respiration happens in the mitochondria. How about photosynthesis? Happens in plants. Respiration? No. So this isn't going to be a question on a quiz, and many of you will get it wrong. That is? Both. So plants can make glucose in photosynthesis, but then they still need to take that glucose and transform it into ATP so that they can have a usable form of energy in their cells. So people want to just say plants and animals, however, respiration happens in both. John?
Why would they keep that energy?
To grow, to move, to transport materials inside of the cell, to move things around within cells. Yes.
What does it say on the board?
Says quiz, photosynthesis, respiration, and diffusion Wednesday. We'll review a little bit tomorrow.
It says copy of